I'm Dr. Kristen Letterman, and I teach oboe at Arkansas State University, and I'm also the principal oboe of the Delta Symphony Orchestra. And I'm here to talk to you about the oboe, and what's really cool about it, and why I like it, and why I hope you will like it as well. So this right here is the oboe, and it's made of 3 different parts. So I have the bell, which I put on my lower joint, which is right in the middle, and my top joint, which I put right on top the lower joint. And this little thing on top right here is called the reed. And the reed is where the sound originates. What's really fun about this reed is I can make a lot of crazy little sounds. So I put this up to my lips, and I have fun sounds coming right out of this. And what happens is when I put it into the oboe, it magnifies everything that I'm doing, and I'm able to change the pitch with all of these keys that are on the instrument. So I'll demonstrate a little bit of playing by moving my fingers. You can see the sound is so much bigger, so much more resonant because of this instrument. And you're probably wondering, well, what is this instrument made of? So this instrument that I'm playing is actually made of wood. It's made of what we call grenadilla wood or African wood. It's a very dense wood and allows that big resonance to happen. And all of these keys, what's really interesting about current oboes is these are all handmade, and the keys themselves are handmade still to this day, so that they are covering these little holes completely as we're playing. So it makes for a very interesting instrument, but also a very expensive instrument. So if you're wondering how much this instrument is, it's about $10,000. But if you're looking for a student instrument, they also make them out of plastic. And they are somewhere around $2,000 to $4,000, so a little bit better than the big $10,000 that I paid for this instrument. So talking about this reed again, what's really kind of cool for oboes is I actually made this reed. This isn't something I went out and bought and put on my instrument, but I actually made this reed. So it is a piece of cane that I have folded over onto this little cork part, which is called a staple. And then I took some thread and wound it around, got my knife out and scraped on it, and it created something that we call an oboe reed that allows me to play on my instrument. And the way this works is once I've folded it over and done all my scraping and opened it up, it makes it what we call a double reed. So there are 2 blades that vibrate back and forth to create the sound. And as I move my fingers, I'm changing the length of the oboe, essentially, to get the different pitches, which makes, I think, our instrument pretty special because besides the bassoon, we are the only instruments that make our own reeds. So I can personalize the sound that I want out of my instrument just by simply making a different reed. So we do have a few unique sounds on our instrument. Those unique sounds, one of them is called what I like to call, or I don't call it, most of us call it, a multiphonic. And you heard my lovely sound. But a multiphonic is playing multi-sounds all at the same time. And it's used in music that's written today. So the 20th century and the 21st century, a lot of composers will use this crazy sound. And I've seen a lot of oboists go ahead and compose music and use these unique sounds. We also, just unique to our instrument, we have this lovely melancholy and lyrical sound, just as we play normally. a nice, beautiful, kind of warm, enveloping sound. And that's why I really love playing this instrument. So you may be wondering, what's this? It looks very similar, right? You have the same wood, you have the same sorts of keys, but it's bigger. It's much, much bigger, right? And we have this funny little thing up here that we call a vocal. So this is the cousin to the oboe. If this is our soprano, this is our tenor voice, and this is the English horn. You'll notice the bell is a little bit different. It has this kind of bulbous bell instead of just a flared out bell. Of course, we have this vocal, and the reed itself is a little bit different. You'll notice that there is absolutely no cork. It's all metal, but it's the same sort of thing. I made this just like my oboe reed, tied it on, and it works perfectly in my English horn. You could hear that deep sound.
Does it take a lot of wind to make a sound on the oboe?
That's a great question. So it does take quite a lot of wind to play the oboe. Although, and I know you can't see this, but this is a really tiny hole that I have to send all of my air through. So unlike something like a tuba or a flute that uses tons of air right away, I am holding that air back and allowing it to go into the oboe much slower, but at a fast rate. So it seems confusing, but it's a small amount of air, but very fast. And what happens because of that is two things. I'm allowed to play much longer than my tuba or flute friends. So I can play about 45 seconds without taking a breath, which is kind of like being a swimmer that has to not take breaths for very, very long times. But I also end up hypoventilating. So not hyperventilating, but hypoventilating, which means that I have all of this stale air. And so if you watch an oboist really closely, you'll sometimes notice that they'll let air out and then take a breath, instead of just letting the air finish and taking a breath in. So it's very different for our instrument.
What's the difference between an English horn and an oboe?
That's also a great question. So you can see right here that the difference in size is pretty noticeable. They're quite different, with the English horn being much, much larger. But the other thing that really makes this sound different is especially this bell. It allows the sound to kind of wrap around inside there and get bigger and warmer, but also it's pitched a little bit lower, so it plays a lot lower than the oboe, so it gives it that mellow tone as opposed to the brightness of the oboe. English horn. And I want to thank you for watching. Thanks to the DSO for putting on these videos, and also come and watch us in the Fowler Center when we are back in person on stage.
I hope you enjoyed this video about the instruments of the orchestra. If you like this one, please check out our other videos and give us a like and subscribe to our channel.